Last week, I finally mustered the courage to renovate my grandfather's old house, a creaking, long-abandoned relic that had stood silent for decades, tucked away in a forgotten corner of our family's past. The moment I stepped through the warped front door, a mix of nostalgia and unease washed over me. Dust motes danced in the sparse light filtering through grimy windows, and every step on the creaky floorboards echoed like whispers of memories best left undisturbed. I had always known the house was peculiar. Neighbors spoke in hushed tones about the hollow sounds emanating from its walls, and the eerie feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. Armed with determination and a head full of family lore, I set out to restore it, hoping to uncover fragments of history while giving the old place a new lease on life. The renovation began as any other project might, with cautious optimism and the sound of tools echoing off stone walls. I planned to remove a section of the wall in the parlor to create a larger, open space, a modern living room that still retained the character of the old home. With hammer in hand and a chisel against the aged, peeling drywall, I carefully marked out an area that I thought would work best. Little did I know that this innocent act of demolition would shatter the boundary between past and present. As I struck away at the plaster, a dull, metallic clang reverberated from behind the wall. I paused, brush in midair, as my heart gave an unexpected leap. Beneath layers of cracked plaster lay a rusted metal box, its surface pitted by time and sealed as if guarding a secret. The box was wedged into the wall like an unintentional time capsule, forgotten by everyone and left to gather dust. Intrigued, I pried open the box with the assistance of an old crowbar. The metal groaned in protest as the lid creaked open, revealing an artifact that seemed out of place in this modern world, an ancient Nokia 3310. Its once bright screen was obscured by a thick layer of dust, yet unbelievably, it still had a sliver of battery life. I wiped it clean, and as if summoned by fate, the device flickered to life, illuminating the dim space with a cold, blue glow. My pulse quickened as I stared at the screen. There, in stark contrast to the chaotic jumble of my renovation tools, was one unread message. There was no sender name, no date, nothing to tie it to any known memory. Just two ominous words that sent chills down my spine. Do not let him out. For several long minutes, I sat in stunned silence, the phone clutched tightly in my trembling hand. Questions swirled in my mind. Was it a prank? A relic from a long-forgotten inside joke? Or was it a warning? One with roots buried deep in the house's murky past? My grandfather, ever the keeper of secrets and family legends, had once murmured about strange happenings and unexplained sounds, but I'd never taken them seriously. Now, here was undeniable evidence that something was amiss. Still reeling, I continued to search the box. Nestled beneath the phone, amid crumbling scraps of old paper and yellowed newspaper clippings, I discovered a small, tarnished key. Attached to it was another note, scrawled in faded ink on a piece of brittle paper. You can't hear him, but he can hear you. The message was as cryptic as it was chilling. The key and the note, combined with the unread message, felt like pieces of a puzzle whose picture I could barely discern. Determined to uncover the truth, I spent the following days poring over old records and family documents stored in dusty boxes in the attic. I scoured local archives and even reached out to a few neighbors who remembered stories about the house. What I eventually discovered sent a shiver down my spine. Before my grandfather had inherited the house, it belonged to a man named Harold M. His name had been deliberately scrubbed from most records after he mysteriously disappeared in 1998. No body was ever found, and whispers in the neighborhood suggested that Harold had been a recluse with an unhealthy fascination for the paranormal. Some even speculated he had been dabbling in occult practices, seeking ways to communicate with forces beyond the living world. Over time, his story faded into urban legend, a cautionary tale of obsession and isolation. Armed with this newfound knowledge, my emotions swirled between skepticism and an ever-growing dread. Had Harold M. somehow left this final message, a desperate warning, from beyond the veil? The key, the message, and the note all hinted at something unearthly, a presence that defied explanation. Every night, as I lay awake in the renovated room, I would replay the moment in my mind, the cold glow of the Nokia screen, the terse command, and the weight of that handwritten note. It was as if the house itself had a voice, and it was urging me to tread carefully. The following evening, as I continued with the renovation work, I began to notice something impossible. Every time I passed the section of the wall where the metal box was hidden, I swore I heard a faint, rhythmic tapping, a sound that was not entirely mechanical, yet not quite natural either. At first, I dismissed it as the settling of old wood or a trick of the acoustics, but soon, The tapping became impossible to ignore. It was deliberate, almost like a slow, measured heartbeat echoing from within the wall. Unable to shake my growing anxiety, I set up an old digital recorder near the wall and left it running overnight. The next morning, I replayed the recording in a state of apprehension. Amid the creaks and groans of the aging house, there was a moment, a barely audible whisper that sent a chill straight down my spine. I distinctly heard a soft, husky voice murmur, "Listen." The word was repeated in a slow cadence, as if urging me to pay heed to its hidden meaning. My mind reeled with possibilities. Had I unwittingly awakened something? Was the warning meant for me alone? The more I thought about it, the more my rational mind clashed with my rising paranoia. Part of me wanted to dismiss it all as an overactive imagination fueled by old family superstitions. But every tangible piece of evidence, the unread message, the cryptic note, the mysterious key, and now this whisper, compelled me to believe that I was in the presence of something beyond explanation. Late one stormy night, as heavy rain pounded the roof and thunder rumbled in the distance, I found myself alone in the living room, staring at the sealed wall. I could almost feel a presence watching me, as if the very air around the wall vibrated with silent anticipation. With the key still clutched in my hand, I debated whether to use it. Could it possibly unlock a hidden door or compartment within the wall, a secret passage leading to Harold M.'s mysterious legacy? The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. My heart pounded as I imagined what horrors or revelations might lie behind a hidden door. Before I could decide, the tapping resumed, more insistent than ever. I pressed my ear against the cold wall, and for a moment, I could almost hear a muffled sound as if someone or something was trying to speak. I stepped back, trembling, and realized that I had reached a crossroads. The house was calling to me, its secrets whispering in the dark corners of my mind. The question was, should I heed the warning and leave things as they were, or risk everything to unearth the truth hidden behind decades of silence? After a sleepless night filled with restless dreams of shadowy figures and echoing voices, I resolved to confront the mystery head-on. I reached out to a local paranormal investigator, a person reputed for their ability to communicate with the echoes of the past. Over a hushed conversation in his cluttered office, he listened intently as I recounted every detail. The metal box, the Nokia with its unread message, the key, the note, and the relentless tapping. His eyes grew wide with a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. "Sometimes," he said in a measured tone, "the past leaves more than memories behind. It leaves imprints, echoes that refuse to be silenced." Armed with his insights and my own mounting resolve, we planned a cautious investigation. On the following night, we returned to the room together. He set up sensitive audio equipment and even a few cameras to capture any anomalous activity. For hours, we sat in the dim glow of candlelight, listening as the ancient house whispered its secrets. The tapping persisted, rhythmic and insistent, as if counting down to some long-forgotten event. At one point, the investigator pointed to a barely visible seam in the wall that he hadn't noticed before, a seam that seemed to be hiding a small, almost imperceptible door. With trembling fingers, I inserted the tarnished key into a lock that I hadn't even known existed. The key turned slowly, and the door creaked open, revealing a narrow passage shrouded in darkness. My breath caught in my throat as we peered inside, the stale air of decades past swirling around us. What lay beyond was uncertain, a chamber filled with dusty relics, old photographs, and an assortment of personal belongings that hinted at a life lived in secret. But amid the clutter, one item stood out, a faded journal with the initials HM embossed on its cover. I opened the journal with shaking hands, and the pages revealed cryptic entries about experiments in communication with the beyond, warnings about releasing forces that should remain confined, and an ever-growing paranoia that had consumed Harold M. as the years passed. The final entry, written in a hurried scrawl, read, "If you find this, heed the warning. Do not let him out. His presence is a curse that will haunt every living soul." The weight of the journal's words pressed down on me, and I realized that the warning wasn't just about Harold M. It was about something far more sinister. I couldn't tell if Harold had inadvertently summoned a malevolent force, or if he had been trying to contain something dark and dangerous. Either way, the message was clear. Some secrets were meant to remain buried. We closed the hidden door and, after a long, silent moment, replaced the old drywall as best we could, sealing the compartment, and with it, the echoes of a tortured past. Yet, even as I restored the physical barrier, the memory of that night remained indelible. Every creak, every shadow cast in the dim light of my renovated home, reminded me of the mysterious journal, the ominous message, and the warning that echoed through time. Now, Every time I pass by that section of the wall, I swear I hear the faint, persistent tapping, a reminder that the past refuses to be silenced. I live with the lingering fear of what might happen if the barrier were ever broken again. Some things I've learned are best left alone, but as the key sits on my mantle and the unread message haunts my thoughts, I can't help but wonder, what if one day, the warning proves to be more than just a ghost story? What if the darkness behind that hidden door finds a way out? In the quiet moments of the night, I ask myself if I made the right choice. Curiosity drove me to uncover secrets that should have remained entombed in time. And now I live with the knowledge that some mysteries are too dangerous to solve. The phone, the key, the note, they are all relics of a past that continues to whisper in the present, urging me to remember that some doors, once opened, may never be closed again.